In development since 2002, only one life simulator can take us to the very edge of what's possible with 21st century computing, able to individually track and manage thousands of NPCs in real time going about their lives, entire societies of avatars, raising children, creating armies, going to war, and dying out all without your involvement. Originally choosing to prioritize sheer processing power instead of fancy graphics, it stayed off the radar of most people, consigned instead to only the most dedicated, top-level global strategists who were willing to put in the thousands of hours necessary to learn the original code. However, with its posting on Steam on December 6, 2022, with improved New Age graphics for us plebeians, we all now have access to software that rivals even the newest version of ChatGPT in terms of computer intelligence and its ability to accurately depict societal responses to stimuli such as floods, war, goblins, and tyranny. It's been a year of struggle, but after finishing every user-made tutorial on YouTube, Stop it, please, I beg you! We're finally ready to share with you the results of our Dwarf Fortress China simulation. Welcome to Deep Thoughts While Gaming. I'm Chris Chappell. China, land of opportunity, lover of Starbucks and basketball, open, honest, and up until very recently, when Mexico overtook them, the US's largest trading partner. A place we sometimes cover on our other channel. Also a place that, at the very least, has chosen to make choices differently than we have in the West. Where we had capitalism, they had communism. Where we had religious values, they attacked the four olds. Where we believed in being fruitful and multiplying, they preferred the one-child policy. And yet, China is still around today. Can we really say that the decisions they made in the past were wrong if it got them through a period of very natural and non-human caused disasters that unfortunately caused the death of a few people here and there? Are China's struggles really a result of its leadership and the decisions they made, or is that just what the Western media would have you believe? How can we, a Western channel, full of Western people, with Western propaganda constantly being thrown at us, develop clear and unbiased opinions? Unfortunately, as Chinese state media has informed us time and time again, we cannot. As such, after years of being worn down, I've come to believe it would really be better to leave the coverage of these many complicated political issues to them. They almost convinced me too. But then, just when the little pinks had me surrounded, filling me with their ideology, I discovered something I was told could help me. Dwarf Fortress, my last chance at making sense of it all. A game created by Android brothers Tarn and Zach Adams, which has been in constant development for over 15 years. With the original alpha being released in 2006, I looked at my computer screen and saw what looked like an error screen, full of random letters and colors. I couldn't make any sense of it. Technology was surely glorious and vast. I had no chance of understanding the original script with my human mind, so after countless hours on YouTube and transitioning to the new reskinned version, I finally saw what so many were telling me. I could simulate Chinese policy through this game and see what happens in real time. Then, with the use of this future technology, we could all be sure that our opinions were both accurate and based in fact. Dwarf Fortress is a game about dwarves, in possibly a fortress if you so choose. But like the beautiful bobbit worm, there's so much more than originally meets the eye. These pixelated graphics hide behind them a world that is both alive and interactive, made to be highly modular. It'll have things interacting in ways you've never seen before, giving you what is strangely an intensely deep experience. It's hard to really explain the depth to which this game goes, but to give some idea of it. I recently had a playthrough where a dwarf child witnessed a man being mauled by a bear. Because of this, the child was traumatized and started spending all his time in his room. His father was an herb gatherer and was often working in the fields, so the child didn't have anyone to care for him. Because of this, he started living in the church around the same time that a religious cult was gaining followers in the city. There, he got an idea, a need to create so powerful it drove him to insanity. We lacked what he needed in the fortress, and he couldn't handle it, so he took off all his clothes and ran around until he died of starvation. We buried him next to the man he saw mauled by a bear only a year before. A sad story, and one of hundreds happening at the same time in that one particular playthrough. In an interview with NoClip 3 years ago, creator Tarn Adams gives other examples such as the one above for those interested in more specific dwarf-related examples. However, for those interested in uncovering the truth about China, what can be learned from these dwarves and their opinions on Chinese policy? Well, we decided to test 3 particular policies that China implemented in the past to see their impact on dwarven culture. The abolishment of private property, the destruction of the 4 olds, and the one-child policy, trying to be as historically accurate as possible. First, in order to create an aura of communism in your new dwarven city, the game gives you the option to create individual rooms or dormitories, so this is easy enough to test. In Dwarf Fortress, dormitories can be used by all dwarves or set dwarves, but they do not give the benefit of combating negative thoughts that sleeping in your own room would. Furthermore, it creates more chance for hostility, as all the dwarves are unable to get away from each other when they'd like. However, if you fill the whole base with statues devoted to your cause, the brainwashing might just make everyone proud enough to not even care. As far as Dwarf Fortress goes, not a bad outcome. Although we, like the dwarves, would prefer our own property. To be fair, I guess sleeping amongst the homies wouldn't be so bad. Next, we must address the 4 olds. The 4 olds being old customs, old culture, old habits, and old ideas. These ideas were used by Mao Zedong during the Cultural Revolution to encompass what the Communist Party aimed to destroy. During this time, temples, monuments, books, and entire cultures were destroyed throughout China, creating the strange contradiction that much of traditional Chinese culture is actually most alive in Taiwan, where the communists didn't exert their influence. In Dwarf Fortress, we can do this gently by simply removing all the churches and burning all the books, or more aggressively, as is sometimes necessary, such as when a few old men fall into holes. Either way, with the loss of history and culture comes dissatisfaction on the part of the dwarves. Some of them start to leave the city, and travelers no longer visit as much. Some of the old dwarves who fell into holes of natural causes actually knew how to make weapons, a hard skill to master. And overall, the fortress, while trying to build something new, ultimately set itself back in time and created more problems for itself. Finally, there's only one way to create a one-child policy in Dwarf Fortress, and after the hole was dug, we got to work. Soon, all the 2nd and 3rd generation children disappeared of natural causes, and the fortress was left better able to feed its population. It's a good thing that we had a strong military presence, as the people were having strong concerns about the strange disappearance of their children. But with the creation of a few more statues and some manual labor, they were soon happy enough to spend their days toiling in the fields. It would end up biting them in the behind a few years later when the old people no longer wanted to work and there was no one left to provide for the populace, but that's a story you can learn about more on our other channel, China Uncensored. Overall, Mao's quotation, "Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun," from his speech titled Problems of War and Strategy, delivered on November 6, 1938 at a conference on the Communist Party in China, rings true in our Dwarf Fortress today. Many of us from the West may not necessarily understand why other people around the world don't do more to change their situations. However, we, the people, and our country, the US, with more guns than people, have ultimately a different set of circumstances in relation to power than those living during a regime that believes the guns are better suited in the arms of solely the military. Fear tactics may even possibly exist today, as I don't think anything has scared me personally as much as the new advertisement for the Chinese death van created and supported by the Chinese Communist Party. But that could be that Western propaganda getting to my head again. It's really a pragmatic approach to reducing the cost of people dying, tastefully and respectfully done in the back of a van. Unfortunately for the little pinks, our results have me convinced to keep speaking out on Chinese topics. Our dwarves just don't seem happy under these sorts of conditions. Luckily, much like China under Deng Xiaoping, who championed quotations like "to get rich is glorious," we opened ourselves up to trade again, acting as the manufacturing hub of the world. And through this capitalist approach, we were able to recover. At least for a few years, until those pesky children started acting up again. Thank you for watching Deep Thoughts While Gaming. And if you're interested in learning more about what it's like to live under the same conditions as our dwarves, consider watching the banned in China 1994 movie To Live, that depicts the Communist Party in all its glory. Or subscribe to my main channel, China Uncensored.